Keith Anthony Blanchard joins me this evening. We're going to have a great conversation. We are live. You are welcome to call in with your questions and comments if you'd like to speak to us on the air, or you can go into Achieve Radio's website and send me an in-quick message if you'd prefer to chat. I'd be happy to read your question on the air, your comment, or whichever you prefer. He is a teacher, an intuitive, a speaker. He is also a radio show host. I've been on his show a few times. He's a musician and author of the best-selling book, The Divine Principle, Anchoring Heaven on Earth. He was born in Louisiana, and he had a typical middle-class Catholic upbringing, so this is going to be a very interesting conversation. In his early teens, he often entertained himself by pondering the big questions about God and the universe, as most of us do, and little did he know that the day would come when those questions would form the spiritual foundation upon which he would build the rest of his life. In his late 20s, Keith went through a crisis that stripped him of everything he held dear and left him with no choice but to turn inward for answers. And he did. And the peace and stability he has, I guess, still eluded him, and he's going to share his story. But when he was 32, celestial beings began to appear to him, sharing glimpses of his future and the world's future. Not only did they enlighten and guide him, they instructed him to pass their message on to others so that they, too, could learn a higher way of living. Now he's in his 50s, and he's living a peaceful, stable life, and he continues to pursue his passion to both learn and teach about truth. Keith is a wonderful guy. I enjoy my time with him when I go on to his show, so I have offered him a spot here on my show so I can share him with you guys, and we can talk about all the great things that we usually talk about. Who knows really where the conversation's going to go? We always have this wonderful spontaneity between us. I'd like to ask him some questions about understanding the heart space, maybe conversate with him about maintaining the divine within and why powerful partnerships are important for today's bridging of heaven on earth, and how we can best move into that place within our own microscopic lives to help the macro, the big collective picture, so that we can all move into a very well-balanced, powerful, love, heart-centered space, and we can ripple that outward and share that with others as we go forward. Keith, welcome.
Well, thank you, Hillary, for having me on your show. Listening to you read my bio, I'm kind of shocked that I actually did all that.
I know the feeling. I do the same thing when I come on your show. I'm like, who is he talking about? So welcome, and thank you so much for being here. And I'm really hoping that everybody will enjoy your energy as much as I do. So why don't you give us a little bit of a background of, a little more or a little less of whichever you'd like to share with everybody about who you are.
Well, as of right now, I'm sitting in a parking lot, and there's a rainstorm happening, which you might hear a couple of thunderclaps, and I'm waiting to go into a nightclub on world-famous Beale Street. I have a gig that showed up spontaneously with some beautiful money involved, and so I'm actually on my cell phone in the parking lot. But my life is that spontaneous. I'm ready to go at any moment. Back in 1996, Hillary, as I've told you before when you were on my show, I think, I was going through a dark night of the soul. I was dating a girl for 10 years, and when that relationship dissolved, as we all so well know, I was living in a very dark space, heart pangs, depression, and finally I had enough. All of my life, I knew God was going to be a part of my life somehow. But all of my life, I pursued God one way or another. At the age of 15, I thought seriously becoming a Catholic priest. I went to seminary. And then my father puts a guitar in my hands, and God went to the closet, and the guitar stayed out. And I lived that whole lifestyle for quite a few years. And as this relationship over a period of time started to dissolve, I found myself in this really icky spot. Afraid, alone, scared. The girlfriend I had, she was my partner. She was my transportation. She was my shelter. She was my food. She was all those things that we find in a partner. And suddenly this was removed from my life. And I found myself on my metaphorical knees, humbled by what was happening because I had nothing. I literally had nothing. And I started to state this intention to God, universe, higher self, whatever the audience person likes to deem it. that I need to hear your voice. And I said this prayer for about 3 weeks to a month. And I'm absolutely convinced it wasn't the length of time that I said this prayer that convinced higher consciousness, okay, let's give him what he wants. He's being sincere. This actually happened. I trust that in my very first asking, this was going to actualize itself. And one night, after playing music, I come in pretty doggone tired. And about 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm awakened out of my sleep by a voice. I look around the room, assuming it was my wife at the time. There was no one there. So I lay back in bed with the intention of going back to sleep, dismissing it as a dream voice. And the voice said, again, Keith, I asked you to wake up. And not only did the voice mean wake up out of your night sleep, it meant this is the moment for you to wake up out of your human slumber. And I was thrown into a supra-conscious divine experience. I can't begin to put words to what it was like to stand in such presence.
Well, as I'm listening to you tell your story, I'm envisioning a lot of people relating to what you just shared, because one of the things that I wanted to speak to you about and conversate with you about was powerful partnership. And when we find these partnerships and they come together and we have this amazing synergy that happens, what happens when they separate and move on and we're left kind of in that state of unpartneredship? How do we deal with the feelings? How do we deal with the emotions? And you just gave a brilliant example of how to do that by going into prayer for however long it takes to get a sign. Did you get a sign?
Yes. Well, can you define get a sign? I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, something eventually, the voice comes in or the clouds part and lightning comes down and strikes you. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I've parked on a street and I looked up and there's been a sign that literally reads to me off the street. I mean, I don't know. A friend calls at an opportune time. I mean, it just seems that there is always something that happens that brings an infusion of energy that's needed at the moment for whatever reason we're going through. But I do think that we do need to talk about how people go in and out of partnership in today's world where we are so aligned with such powerful times. We have come so far in our level of evolution of consciousness. And we really do have that moment of heart space within us that we're learning how to open, how to be in, how to share with other people. But, how do we deal with the new age heartbreak that happens, or the dissolving of partnerships that happens? I don't think anybody's covered that yet. Do you?
No, I understand that. And my path, from my past, what I have learned is I've learned that love, what we call the heart, what we call dwelling in the heart, is not this place of, please don't leave me, and the partner says, why? And then you retort with, because I love you. That is not love in any way whatsoever, any shape, form, or fashion for me. That is attachment, and I've learned that true love is being an absolute allowance, total allowance, allowing the other person to be as they are, the way they are, and there is nothing else to it, really. It's more of a decision. In my life, I choose to come together with someone that I agree with, someone I get along with, versus having these fanciful feelings of feeling like, ooh, I can't wait to go out with this person again. To me, stepping into that arena of those kinds of feelings is potentially opening up a can of trouble. And I've seen myself, as well as some people that I work with in a counseling way, is that when someone, don't get me wrong, even including myself, if I'm in a relationship with someone and I've been in that relationship for quite a while, yes, if this person decides to leave, or if I decide to leave, or we mutually decide to part, it doesn't mean that it won't weigh on my heart. It will truly weigh on my heart, because there's a process of there's a process of working things out, and it's a new balancing act. But I've learned that when a person grabs onto anything, particularly a relationship, it's like grabbing onto an electrical wire. As long as you hold onto this electrical wire, you will feel pain. But if you let go, the pain immediately begins to subside. for me, it's another way of controlling, wishing that something was the way I want it to be versus allowing it to be what it is, which is where peace will be found.
It's always interesting how God or Creator or the universe, whichever you prefer, clears your slate for a reason. I have never found ever in my life that hasn't happened for a reason. It's just something I can't see at the moment. And, it's about faith, and it's about grace, and it's about how you will move into that space and how you will handle that space. I also think that we have discovered a very powerful connection with the heart magnetic fields between two people who partner, who are in an authentic space of love, not the clingy attachment kind of love that you described. But we've moved into a really critical time of being able to merge two into one kind of thing. We've heard so much talk about that. It's really saturated into the collective consciousness, and we're seeing it develop in the microscopic of our lives through our partnerships and our relations, especially our intimate ones. And when we allow ourselves to be opened up to somebody's heart space, and we genuinely let somebody else into our heart space, this is something that's relatively new. I work with Apache Shima Maria Yesperu, who's an Apache elder in New Mexico, who talks about the fourth world cosmology versus the fifth world cosmology. And she says, we moved into the fifth world cosmology. You hear talk about the fifth dimension. We're here, whatever you want to call it. And, we're learning how to practice being in strong partnership with others in a way that enhances that heart space. That, when you see a couple that inspires other people to really, go into that heart space. I mean, it's rare that you see two people, I think of Jesus and Magdalene, when you see two people come together and work together in a heart space and create such a powerful synergy that it doesn't make other people jealous or envious or hateful or want to break that up. They actually inspire other people to further that development of partnership and also heart space. So I think for watching that manifest, I've certainly found elements of that within my own life. I've seen my clients do that. I've heard from my listeners and my readers that this is something that they've experienced, whether you want to call it the soulmate or the twin flame or whatever. I don't like to put labels on anything anymore. I really think that we need a new language. I think we need to invent a new way to communicate, because we have grown out of that paradigm and we are ready for this new construction to happen, and we have to put this into proper format, and we are human beings and we require, unfortunately, language to do that. So until we've evolved out of language, we have to decide how we're going to label these things, I guess. So when you were moving into this space, Keith, you said you went into this, you had this voice experience. Was this what propelled you to write The Divine Principle, moves you into that space? How did that evolve?
Well, when the experience was being had, I was submersed in light, I guess you can say, but it's not as one would imagine by the visualization of rays of light or light. It was so much more than that. The voice spoke, though I can hear it audibly. I could see the voice, I could taste the voice, I could smell the voice, I could feel the voice. It was everything imaginable. And we think, in our human way, we think with linear thoughts that follow thought. Well, the information that was being imparted to me during this experience is what I call whole thought. Everything it quote, if there's such a thing, wanted from me was happening in the moment, and it was just one simple impression that was imbued with, oh my gosh, so much information. It was like in that moment I became informationally pregnant, and it took me 8 linear years to sit down, and I would do this from 12 noon to 6 to 9 at night, and never leave my computer except to use the restroom and get something to eat. I did this for 6.5, maybe 7 years of writing. I was in meditation. But to answer your question a little more is, when this energy, the voice said, Keith, go sit on your sofa and press record on your tape player. I guess you can call it channeling, but I like to stay away from the word because of the bad stigma that surrounds it. when this energy would come into my body, Hillary, I would immediately go into the heart space, a space of my heart that I hadn't for 10 years because of the strife that I was having in the relationship. And because I was not used to this kind of energy moving within me, resounding within me, resonating within me, it was resonating my heart like a tuning fork. And I would go into these overwhelming crying spells, these snot nose reaching out of my eyes, uncontrollably crying spells for like 5 minutes. And then later in, quote, channel or in meditation, I was told very clearly that the reason this is happening, Keith, is because your body needs to burn off this energy that you are not yet used to. And I'm now at a place... I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said I like that.
Oh, thank you. And I'm now at a place in my life, Hillary. Now, mind you, I have to be on top of things and be conscious about it. But when I'm out in public, and I network with people every night because I'm such a social butterfly, I love everyone. There's no one I dislike. When I meet someone for the first time, and I'm exercising that heart space in relationship, and as I described, my relationships are not so much having those emotional feelings of love and attachment, and that's my girlfriend, oh boy, and holding hands. I choose to be with someone that I just want to because I like you. I like being around you more than not. But I'm implementing this in my life now because when I'm out in public and someone says, Keith, I want you to meet a dear friend of mine, this is John Doe. Immediately, Hillary, I scan them, non-invasive, of course, but I scan them in a very relaxed, allowing kind of way, and I find one thing that I admire and appreciate about this person that I don't see in someone else, be it physical beauty, be it the sound of their voice, be it their intelligence, whatever it is. And I begin to stroke that particular aspect of this person within myself. And in so doing, I literally see God step out of this person and walk right out of them in front of my face. So that heart space for me is the threshold. It is the doorway to the fifth dimension. It is the doorway to humility, which for me is the catalyst for higher knowing and absolute peace.
I like how you put that. I can actually connect to the visual of that. You know, as you were talking and I was seeing you seeing you do that, it was very clear. And I commend you because we are learning how to do that together as a species, I believe, and that's part of what we were talking about earlier with the partnership. When you can find a quality in somebody that brings you to an experience of God, in whatever way, shape, or form that means to you, it is always a beautiful thing. It is always something that, brings us to a space of, in the beginning, creation type energy. When you can find that level of connection within another human being, it's kind of like the two angels on the ark. They say that there's two angels facing each other on the Ark of the Covenant, and that there's this space between them, and I have always been fascinated with that. And what I see there is an empty space of all potential. It's like a blank page, and anything can happen in that creational space between two people. Sure, we don't need another person. I mean, we've been telling ourselves that for so long that we've gotten kind of lonely. I think it's more fun when you do this with another person and you practice with another person. And I think that's really what community is about, what family is about, what partnership is about, is being able to stand in your own power, equal with another person who can stand in their own power, meditate together, create energy together, and you really get it, and you learn and practice with each other as you grow. You learn new things, you share with others. But it's also a difficult concept for people who are closed off. Now, why is it difficult to people who are closed off? Most likely because they're shut off to their heart somehow. I have seen it happen in a gazillion ways. I have had it happen to myself. There are always these kind of tricky keys that keep us locked down. Our ego will tell us whatever it needs to tell us to shut us down. Life circumstances will bubble up and things will become imminent. And we'll have to go, oh, I can't love right now. I have to go do this. I have to make money. I have to get busy. I have to be productive. But when we're in that love space, all of the rest of it takes its proper place. It kind of just ripples out through the field. And please stop me if you have something to add or you want to correct me, because I'm not saying I know it all, but this is how I feel it when I look at it. It ripples out, and it just makes everything else work. And what isn't working or what isn't for our highest good will shed away like a snakeskin because it's meant to. Because we're meant to really bloom into our fullest potential as humans. And we can do that effectively if we allow our heart space to stay open. We've had a lot of heartbreak, a lot of heart pain, microscopically, macroscopically. I mean, there is no difference between what happens to us on the microcosm as it happens in the collective. So do you feel that is something that, do you agree with that? Do you see it differently? I'm interested in your opinion because, as a man, men see things different, women see things different. And I think we're coming together where the divine aspects of the masculine and the divine aspects of the feminine can come together and create the cosmic child and really move into a new way of being. Don't you think?
Absolutely. I'm sitting here looking at some notes. I created this program a while back called RPM. And it stands for Recognize, Plug In, and Manifest. And the first part of the divine principle, I did not know this, Hillary, until years later. This was not intentional on my part in writing of this book. The first third of the divine principle is about recognizing. It's about recognizing the divine in everything and in everyone, and as it dances throughout everything in your life experience. The second part is about plugging into that God system we know that is inside of us. And the third part is beginning to use those tools to manifest your life. And I'm looking here at a chapter called Opening Up and Grounding the Divine Principle. The subtitle is Becoming a Lightning Rod. It's seeding the spirit and integrating the divine principle. It's about getting absolutely involved. I've seen being out in public, yet again, I use these analogies a lot because it is my life, and it has the most power for me to deliver a message to the listening audience. When I'm out in public and I walk to a table, and though they may be friends or acquaintances, I can tell the energy's low because there may be a little bit of judgment or a little bit of racism, whatever. And when I sense this is taking place, I hope this answers your question. When I walk into the circle, I literally send out a pulse and I change the dynamic. Just the opposite of when I meet someone for the first time and I start admiring or appreciating one of their beautiful qualities. I, on purpose, send out my will, and I'm perfecting it to the point to where I will never fail. This is my intention. It's not about being right. It's not about being arrogant. It's about being confident that what I am seeing here in this experience will transcend. It will elevate, and it will elevate now. And another thing that I've learned in those relationships is your eye contact and where you are coming from within your heart space. Yes, sometimes it's hard to truly fall into the heart space. But if you can shimmy and shake and wiggle your way down to where you can truly settle into your heart, if you have to, put your hand over your heart while you talk. It'll make you present. It'll make you conscious. When I begin to look at someone from a genuine, heartfelt space, it says more than any words can possibly imagine. I've seen people that I speak with, as I'm reading the table or just being out with friends, and someone is sitting there and they're in their stuff, really, really in their stuff, and they're doing the best they can to let go and have a good time, and they're probably hoping someone asks them what's wrong so they can vent it out. I may meet this person a little while later down the aisle, and I will walk up to them and take a deep breath and ask them just to give me their attention. And I will simply tell them, I just want you to know that I care. Now, that may sound like just some strange words for a stranger to say to you, but they have no choice but to feel where I'm coming from inside as to why I'm saying it. And their life transforms in front of my eyes.
Well, it just goes to show you that part of that healing of the heart space has to do with people doing things like that for other people. Often we sit around waiting for someone to show up and to say that they care. And when they don't come, or they don't show up, or they don't tell you that, it creates a crack in our heart. And, you are generating a kind of salve, a kind of healing salve, and so are others who choose to do this as well, that help the heart. And each person represents the collective heart. So every time you touch another person's heart and you help to heal that space more and more and more, you are actually symbolically helping to heal, the heart of humanity. And if we looked at every person as an opportunity to be able to do that, we would indeed get very far very quickly, because we would enhance that electromagnetic field of the heart in each person and also within ourselves. Because when we open up a space like that to care for another person, we are in fact healing our own heart as well, being able to reach out and say, I care, no matter what they're doing. We have to move beyond. I'm going to get kind of a lecture-y here because it's just the way I am. You've had me on. And I think that we have to really be careful and discerning and responsible when it comes to another person's heart space, our own heart space. We can't make everybody, we can't be everything for everybody, but when we're one-on-one with somebody, or we're in a space, or we've expressed love for another person, or vice versa, we have a responsibility to create that kind of, to treat that like it's, a newborn baby chick or something, something fragile, some kind of new life, a seed that's germinated, broken through the soil for the first time, because for many people, opening up a space like that is that. And if you're not partnered with somebody who cannot let you into their heart space, no matter how hard you try, or how genuine you are, or how authentic you are, or you've tried all the little maneuvers, you can only pray for that person from that point forward. There's nothing else you can do. You've tried, and they're just not ready for you to come into their heart space. But if they let you in, you have a responsibility to hold that as a tender life, and to be caring, and to be considerate, and to be, to do what you do, to say, I care. And I believe that is part of what will help to heal where we are at our level of humanity today, 2014, moving forward, always moving forward into our future, into teaching our generations to come how to love. How many people actually spend time teaching their children how to love another person? Do you know the answer to that? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know what I do. I'm not perfect with that, but when I catch myself, I teach my own kids. My son's just starting to have relationships with his girlfriend and girls and stuff, and it's a constant conversation that we have about being responsible with feelings of other people, and to care about them to the point where you don't let yourself be walked over or taken advantage of, but you allow a kind of tender caring to be offered. And whether that person accepts it or not is up to them, of course. But what do you think about the generations coming up and the,
That right there, you said something very, very powerful and very, very magical, and it's not an everyday occurrence, which it may be, at least to my knowledge, it isn't. You said you have an ongoing dialogue with your son. That is amazing. I have an ongoing dialogue with my son. the troubles of the world, the woes of the world, people say, well, Keith, you're spiritual. That's all perception. You're seeing troubles. Look, I'm not here to kid myself nor anybody else. I'm not a fool, and nor am I going to take anyone else for one. The world has a balanced issue, at least from the playing field that we're participating in. The arena that everybody's collectively playing in, there is an imbalance. And it starts with empowering your children, talking to your children, having that open dialogue, an open, honest dialogue with your children.
They really are our future. They really are our descendants, and they are the keepers of the generations of us to come. My grandmother passed away this past summer, and I did a lot of writing about her coming back to me and talking to me and being kind of an oracle for me. And one of the things that she shared with me in a dream was that I was to start working into the future in meditation with my future granddaughter, the next woman to be born in my bloodline, to start working in meditation with empowering her spirit and to becoming, starting the dialogue even now in this time for whatever time she manifests, whether it's a great-granddaughter, a great-great-granddaughter, a great-great-great, it doesn't matter, because whenever she comes in, she will have been loved and nurtured by me, even if I'm not alive at that point, in spirit. And I thought that was beautiful. I was like, gosh, Graham, that's great. That's great. So I practiced that. And what it did was it gave an interesting scale of time. We talk a lot about, or we hear a talk about past lives and, meeting other people we've known in other lifetimes and feeling those strong connections and all that. But if we all took the time to nurture our ascendants, the ones that are coming, our descendants, well, our ascended descendants, how's that? The ones that come in, in these different vibrational stages of development within our earth space. And they will come in with this, if my great-great-great-grandmother was meditating and dreaming about me years and years and years ago, and I read that in one of her journals, it would touch a heart space inside of me that would absolutely burst wide open.
A place that's truly divine.
And I just thought about the feeling of that and the experience of that. So I haven't really written much about that, but I did touch on it briefly, but I've been more working on the experience of this. And as I was working on the experience of this, my partner walked into my life, and we've had a tremendous, wonderful relationship and connection. And it's felt very similar to that kind of nurturing quality that my grandmother had showed me in this dream, and I had been working with in meditation. So much like your experience, where you spent all this time asking God to share his voice and so you would have a sign and move into this, I spent months doing this. And then he arrives, and I have this amazing experience with him, and we move into this space, and everything is wonderful. We have this magical connection, and who knows where it'll go, but it's just one of those things where it's like, how much power do we have as humans to really create what we attract to us? If we want something of a higher quality, if we want something more expansive feeling of love, we have to practice what that feels like prior to having it come into our life. If we want heartbreak and we want separation and we want to de-evolve, well, sure, the ego is all set for that because it's got lots of experience to relate to that, so we can feel the separation, disconnection, the hate. Oh, I will never find love. Oh, why does that person have it and I don't? The jealousy, all of this stuff. We've had tons of experience on that. Isn't everybody tired of it? I don't know about you, but I'm tired of it, and I'm ready to move in to a whole new arena of being able to experience heart bloom instead of heartbreak. What do you think?
Yes. When I was in India, it's not about just being in the heart to help someone else. There's something in it for you too. And so it's a win-win, and what is in it is the reflection of yourself that you may know as another. Because if there was only a need for one person, you would be an avatar. But we're not. So since we're not an avatar yet, everybody has a piece of our puzzle. When I was in India, and I was on the ashram seeing a holy man by the name of Satya Sai Baba, who came to me in a dream, invited me. 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from someone I've never met, absolute true story, from a phone call from someone I've never met. Hi, Keith, my name is Debbie. I'm a flight attendant. I hear you want to go to India. Yes, Debbie, this is true. Can I give you a first-class round-trip ticket? Miracle, big, major miracle. So I go to India, and on this particular day, one of the Seva dolls, which translates to attendant or assistant, asked me if I ever kissed Sai Baba's feet, and I said no. He said, maybe today is your lucky day. Now, keep in mind there are 35,000 people in this temple. Like a divine script, Sai Baba walks into the temple, walks directly up to me out of 35,000. After this Seva doll mentions to me that maybe today is your day. Well, when I leaned over to kiss his feet, the humility that happened in me, I have never experienced in my life. So to answer your question, something you had said, and that was, we have to, if we want to move into a higher conscious, we have to practice this every day. But how do we practice something that we've never experienced? How do we get to that place of feeling that we've never felt? Well, I think we all know what humility is. And to me, that would be the compass. Move into deeper, subtler states of absolute humility, and your heart will punch itself open, and you will find yourself not only compassionate and caring about other people and healing people, and when it becomes so second nature to you. You're not even trying to do it anymore. It's just a part of your way. But in that and through that and because of that, when that heart opens up, you're going to be finding yourself with less thoughts and more beautiful thoughts, which begins to accelerate your life in a more beautiful way. So there is something in it for you. And so as your conviction and as you begin to live in the heart, the outside will validate that. And as the outside validates that, the heart opens even more. And as the heart opens even more, the outside validates that. And this becomes a feedback loop within itself, and your life begins to expand. Just everything in your experience begins to expand in a most beautiful way.
I love how you put that. Because what I have been experiencing in my own life on a personal level as well as a professional level is that experience is something that is absolutely necessary in order for us to really gain access to these higher realms of consciousness, to these more expansive realms of consciousness. We cannot just sit and read about it anymore. You know, it's great. Facebook is great for that. You know, we can find books. We can find all kinds of information. We can listen to radio shows like yours and mine, and we can have all these great things. But if we're not taking the information to the next level, if we're not moving it into the realm of experience, we are missing the train. Because it is not about packing the brain filled with concepts and theories and data. And I mean, we are on such overwhelm when it comes to information access. It is impossible to ever really learn everything. But when you go into the realm of experience, you break it down to what I would see as a specialty. You know, you specialize in this or that. You know, you play the guitar versus the piano or whatever. You know, you specialize in something. And the experience enables the body to awaken the memories that are within us on a cellular level. They gave the movement and the experience allows us to go into all dimensions at once where we are no longer seeing or feeling. We are seeing, feeling in the same way. There is no differentiation between feeling and seeing. It becomes something that is simultaneously the same. And this is what I call opening up the portals within the body, within the neurons, within the brain, allowing like an all-access path to open up at once. And then if we're in partnership Now, when I say partnership, I just want to clarify something for people. If you have a partner who can do this and you're intimate with that partner and you're in a relationship with that partner, fantastic. If you partner with somebody, to do meditation, or you have a meditation partner that you work with, great. When I say partner, I'm talking about another person besides yourself that you actually twine with, or you do a movement with, that creates a catalyst for these experiences to come through. My hope for everyone is that you find a partnership where it's an intimate partnership, where you can ground the energies sexually, where you can go into those spaces together on a very, very intimate level and bring that forward into your world. And as you do, you will find that the sexual physical relationships help to ground these very, very high ecstatic energies. And it's something that a lot of people don't talk about, or they think you have to give that up. That I don't believe in that at all, because I've had the experience of that. And it's something that actually opens my heart center up to a space that it just normally would not get without that. So I think we're moving into the realm of human technology. We're moving into the realm where we don't need apps or a cell phone or Facebook or anything else to really move us into that direction. It's going to start moving us into a place of practice with each other. If we woke up tomorrow and all of the modern conveniences that we have today were wiped out, we would have to start somewhere. You'd have to actually walk out of your house, and you'd have to meet your neighbors, and you'd have to start talking to people, and you would have to start having relations. And God, how many people live in America and don't even know who they live next to,
Yes. Because if reality as we know it completely changed, your neighbor will become the most valuable asset that you have in your life. They may have a lighter that you need for warmth. They may have, vegetables that you may need in trade of or whatever. They will become your greatest asset. You can bet on that. And so it would be smart and preventative to ground yourself, tap into the part of yourself that is, quote, enlightened, that has knowledge that will guide you. Guidance is a very amazing thing. It's just all about listening, being still, and knowing I am God. And being still, stop judging, stop arguing, stop being mean to people. Just stop. And because it's really, after all, it's really never about you. Because when you no longer make it about you, it actually becomes all about you. That's where the magic is. When it's not about you is when you have the greatest reward, because you begin to bring the divine through yourself as to why you are able to affect that person. Hence the experience I have when I look at someone or talk to them and appreciate a quality, or even just look at them and squeeze their shoulder with a certain look in mind. It transforms people. And that's how you expand your own life, is by being a power, a lightning rod for someone else.
Because we're all connected, and it's one of those things where you can't not be affected by loving somebody else. You can't not be affected by caring about somebody else. You can't not. It's a reciprocal attached, because we are so attached. We are so connected. Our energy systems are connected. It's just something that you cannot shut off. You cannot choose to shut it off. You can pretend it's shut off. Your ego will certainly support you in that view. But we're getting to a point where egos, I believe, are going to start being transmuted and integrated into the larger picture, because ultimately we cannot reject a part of ourselves and claim to be whole. We cannot see something within ourselves and say nope and be whole. We have to say yes to everything we are and just accept it, move on, and be human and enjoy it and embrace it, share that human quality with other people and stop pretending we're all a bunch of saints who don't like this or that. And it's really just not going to work anymore. We have to learn
and
to be
it's not fun either. There's no fun in being perfect. I mean, if that was the case, we never would have left the Godhead. You know, something you said had brought something to mind. I've always, and I say this as often as I can, especially when I do radio interviews, is something you said, we can either get the program or not. That's really the only choice you have. It's the only choice there is. I strongly suggest getting with the program, because if you do not, the energy that we are living in is beginning to exponentiate. And basically, God, Spirit, your higher self, whatever you want to call it, is winding its way through every soul on the planet. And everything that is in your filter, in your mind, in your ego mind, in your emotional bodies, if you're blocked, everything in that filter is being pushed out like a light inside of a movie projector, and your issues are the film. If you don't like what's happening in your life, you have to change the film to change the movie. But here's the kicker. If you do not solve your issues now, as the energy begins to lift and lift and lift and exponentiate, God forbid you don't want to happen, your monster to come alive right before your eyes because you have never balanced it. That would be a very, very sad day for you. And you might end up somehow taking yourself off of this planet. Well, we know that to be true from people who commit suicide. But also, suicide doesn't mean that you intentionally, in this now moment, take your life. It could be that you're shutting your root chakra down because you're not doing the emotional, intensive, extensive mental and emotional work, spiritual work. So eventually it's suicide, but at a longer period. So my suggestion, my support for everyone is look at yourself in the mirror and be honest and ask yourself, to tell yourself one very simple statement. I love myself, and mean it as best you can. And if you are not clear, you will hear the voice say, only if. That only if is your higher self directly telling you where the work lies. Do some work for a week. Do the work for a week. Tell yourself, I love myself. Only if. If you see you getting better at it, keep on. If not, readjust, refine, retune. But when that is cleared, I love myself, and that one no longer crops up, it's cleared. That issue for you is cleared. Very simple but profound exercise for clearing oneself.
So I hope everybody listening takes Keith's advice and takes a look in the mirror and tells yourself that you love yourself. One of my greatest reprieves from heartache or any other kind of human pain is a undefined amount of time of self-care. In whatever way, shape, or that means, making sure I'm hydrated and I get enough water, exercising, making sure my nutrition is really well, because it's so easy for us to fall into bad habits because we're not loving ourselves. And you can tell if you're loving yourself by the mirror of your relations in your life around you. How are other people seeing you? What are other people saying to you? Don't dismiss it as their shit, unless it really is. But, and you can tell the difference. But when somebody comes to you...
There's a very fine, but yet real line between the two.
There is a really fine and very real line between the two. Yeah. And here's how I tell the difference. And this was taught to me by one of my treasured teachers years and years and years ago. The fine line is defined by your emotional reaction to the statement said. If you have no emotional reaction, like literally, and you know yourself well enough to know when you have a reaction to something somebody says, it's not your shit. And it's just something that somebody's saying, and you don't have to, you can just say amen, aho, whatever you want to say and move on. But when you have that emotional reaction, there is definitely something for you to look at. And let's remember that love is an emotion. It creates a chemical process in the body, just like anger, just like hate, just like joy, just like happiness. Love is an emotion. It is something that if we can learn to embrace and fully express and really get through and really own, just like all the other emotional scales, anger, I mean, if we can embrace it and understand it and really know what makes ourselves tick within that state, we have a vast amount of knowledge to learn about ourselves within the emotional fields. I don't ever condone getting rid of emotions. I think that's a dangerous thing. It's like cutting off your hair and saying you are fine with that. It's really a total human experience that we are here to embrace. And God help us if we don't embrace that before it's our time to transition on to the next great adventure. Because I know that while I'm here, and I don't care how many times I've been here before, I am going to embrace this experience of being totally human as much as I can, and I'm going to love myself through it. And when I find myself not loving myself or falling, into that space of, oh my gosh, life is so gray and so dim, it's people like you, Keith, who come in and say, I care, that help to inspire that. It's maybe a phone call from a girlfriend or a friend who I haven't heard from in a while that leads to an inspiring conversation that lifts my energy. And then I lift it myself by going into meditation, by taking care of myself. How can you not feel this level of heart space if you are taking care of yourself? I don't know if that's possible. I mean, if you're truly taking care of yourself on a physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental level, I don't see any way that anything can ever really come in and destroy that unless it's something that you need to work on. If you have an emotional reaction to that, whatever comes in, and you just, oh, okay, I got to go take a look at that for a little while, fine. Versus not doing that. There's a lot of advice that we can give people to work through these things, but ultimately it comes down to, I believe, dealing with your heartbreak. Because even though the cracks within a crystal reveal the rainbows, the cracks within our heart allow things to leak in, and we don't have a contained holy space. So the more we put those healing salves on, the more we let people like Keith come into our experience and give us that loving look, the more we embrace our partners, the more we tell others that we love them, the more that we act in loving grace towards ourselves and others, the more those cracks will heal. And eventually we have a whole space where it really becomes the holy of holies, don't you think? I mean, it's the inner temple.
Yes, and of course it's where the word holy derives from, is being whole with yourself, within yourself, and not being cracked, not being fragmented.
Or split in your consciousness not being, fully landed where you need to be fully landed. I'm going to suggest to people, because we're kind of coming to the end of our show, which always happens when Keith and I are on the air. The hour goes by really fast. We can probably use another hour. Maybe I'll have you back on. We can continue this conversation, because I can just feel intuitively that people are listening and shaking their head and going, oh yeah, I get that, because we're talking a language, hopefully, that gets the feeling and the experience across. And I think that's really important when we learn how to communicate what we're feeling, how we're feeling, the space that we're describing. One of the things I love to do with my partner is experiment with meditation. So when we're not in the same space, I will let him know that we're going to do this. I'm going to go into meditation. I'm going to focus on this. And you tell me what you feel, and I'll let you know when I'm done. Or he'll do that to me. And it's awesome because it's validating the sensations that we feel within our bodies, within our emotions. We might see something, maybe an eagle lands down in front of you and makes a sound. I don't know. It can be anything from spectacular to the ordinary. I mean, it doesn't always happen that way, but it's practice in validating the connection on all levels: physical, emotional, spiritual, mental. And it's wonderful to achieve that level of work with another person, whether it's your meditation partner or your intimate partner or whatever. And I highly suggest people start to practice that, to start experimenting with meditations with each other, and really testing the boundaries of our comfort zones, and stop seeing, everybody as bad and negative, because that just cuts your world right in half. Cuts it right in half, right down the middle.
Yes.
So we're at the last couple of minutes of the show, Keith. What do you got going on? I mean, you want to tell everybody where they can find you, your book, your shows, everything that you got going on?
First, I want to say thank you. I really enjoyed being on your absolute amazing, powerful platform. Thank you very much, Hillary. They can find me at KeithAnthonyBlanchard.com. You can also go to DoWhatYouLoveTheMovie.com, which is a movie made about my life as a musician, spiritual teacher. Most people think they can't do what they love and earn a living. And the movie is about empowering anyone with the tools they need so they can begin to live their best life. I am all about people. It makes me happy. It validates me. It makes me feel alive. You can also go to Amazon and look for Keith Blanchard, The Divine Principle, Anchoring Heaven on Earth.
And your links to your website are on my radio homepage right here on Achieve Radio. You can go to my homepage and find more about Keith. You can find his archive available immediately after the show. And I invite you all to share it. It will also be posted on my YouTube channel and be available as a video, because I know most people love to watch videos, although it's the same image for the whole hour. So you're not really watching anything. But so, it is what it is. And I would also highly encourage people to go back and to listen to this. I also have a few announcements to make. But before I do, I'd like to thank you, Keith, for being here, for sharing your heart and your experience with us, and to please continue to do the wonderful things that you do in this world, and to have a wonderful show tonight. And may your resonance travel out through your music into the hearts of your audience, and may it be a very, very blessed show.
Amen. Thank you, Hillary. I appreciate you. Namaste to you.
Namaste. We have coming up, Barbara Hand-Clow is going to be returning on May 8th. She will be here for a live show. I am very excited. She's in semi-retirement. I spoke with her this morning. She has 2 books coming out. One is a rewrite of Liquid Sex Love. It's going to be under a new title. And she also has a brand new book coming out called The Revelations of the Ruby Crystal, which I'm fascinated with. And we will be sharing that with you on May 8th. So I hope that you will join us. Next week is a mystery guest. I don't know who's going to be coming on yet, but you can always check my archives to see what the upcoming shows are. And we have a couple things going on. If you're in the upstate local New York area, I will be leading a day tour down to the Stone Chambers and the Catskills. Philip and Brogno wrote a lot about these. You can find all this information on my website, HillaryRaimo.com. Good night, everyone. Namaste.